So here we are, the DXA Cine. Is it a mini version of the DXA Alexa input box for the Arri Alexa, or is it a bit of a damp squib? This is a nice little box. It does pump up the audio to the level you need to get into the Alexa to make scratch audio usable. However, it does not have any XLR inputs, and it does not provide phantom power. And although it has multiple inputs, which are all 3.5mm, it depends what cable very much you use as to whether they work left and right and separate the audio out. I have tried a dozen different cables with this thing, and on only one setup have I been able to actually separate left and right audio channels. So that aside, let's have a quick tour of it. We have input 1 and 2, left and right audio pots to control your audio input levels. We have power on and off. We have stereo or mono switch, which is very useful because some cables work on one and not the other. And we have monitor out from the headphone, which can be return or out. So Alexa Mini gives no return, so it's always on out. We've got return input and a headphone jack. On the side or bottom, you tend to mount it that way round on the Alexa. So on the bottom we have left and right 3.5mm mini jack inputs, stereo mini jack input, and line out mini jack output. On the top we have power, 11 to 16 volt input, which is quite useful. So you can take your power cable directly from your Alexa and plug it in there. Obviously you have to buy that separately, it's not included. We have a line out, which is a 5-pin XLR to Alexa Mini input cable. Again, have to buy that separately, it's not included. So let's wire it up the way that you need to in order to make this thing work. So it's very easy. It has a little windy knob there to screw it into the side plate on the Alexa Mini. Just putting it here because it seems to be the most obvious place for it. You take your power cable, which I've already connected to the D-tap, pop it in at the top. Have your 5-pin XLR output, which all these cables seem to come with an unnecessary amount of extra cable, so I'm just going to thread that round there and pop that in to the Alexa Mini. And there you are. Now you can turn it on, power on. Nothing going in at the moment, so I'm going to use my top mic, which is a Rode NG G2 self-powered mic. It's important because there's no power coming from here or the Alexa, and that's just an XLR to 3.5 stereo cable. That's important. I've tried a mono one, doesn't work, and that goes into the stereo input. And now on stereo I have one channel. If I put it to mono, I now have both channels going in. They're the same thing, but they're both going in, and you can change your levels on the pots there. Now, this doesn't have a VU meter, it just has 2 LEDs, and they go from green to orange to red, which isn't the easiest thing to read when you're trying to adjust input levels. So you pretty much have to go via the screen on the Alexa Mini. Okay, so it's all rigged up. We have our single mono channel going in there, and it's going in via both channels into the Alexa Mini at good level, usable top mic, great. So what if you are connecting something else to it, like a radio mic receiver? So this is the Sony dual channel URX thing, and this has got a dual output lead. Luckily that does come with it, and you can have 1 and 2 out onto a stereo mini jack, and that goes in to, surprisingly enough, the stereo input on the DXA Cine. Now you can now mount this happily here, and you've got 2 channels of wireless audio in. And the cool thing about this receiver is that it has a mic input. So if you have a self-powered mic, like we already have on there, we can put that in and we can assign that to input 1 or 2. So if you have 2 presenters, for example, or you have a presenter and interviewee, you want to keep the interviewee's track clear, put that on channel 1, and the interviewer you can have on channel 2 with that over the top of it as well as another backup. So that's really cool. So now we have 3 channels going in to the Alexa Mini at good level, and that works really great. Now the caveat to that, although this works really well, is that you now don't need this box, because the radio mic receiver here has a headphone out, and if you put one of these 30 quid 3.5 to Alexa Mini cables in, you get the same good level out as if you were using this box. So now this box is redundant. So that's my issue with it. If you only want good level audio in, it's just being a preamp to your top mic, okay, that's great. For anything else, you're pretty much better off with just a decent radio mic receiver or a little zoom recorder. The F3 I think is probably the one most suited to this camera. So yeah, bit disappointing. I wouldn't buy the DXA Alexa because that's 600 quid. This is 130, 140, and then maybe another 100 quid for this, which is your dual input XLR box from Beachtek that provides phantom power, mic or line level inputs, and a 3.5, which can then go straight into there. And then you have everything you need. So then you've got 250 quid spent. Why not just buy a Zoom F3 recorder, and then you've got all of that in a smaller box than this, which can sit up here, and backup recording as well. It's the combination of these things to do what is essentially a very simple task. Just get 2 XLR inputs with phantom power. It's just too complicated. I'm going to send that back and use a Zoom recorder instead for my phantom powering if I need to go directly into the camera, or a mixer from a from a sound person. They would have a mixer which will give you out the right level. Or if I'm on my own, I'd just use this radio mic receiver, even if it's not recording any radio mic sound, just to have the extra mic input there, external mic input, and then have that going out to the camera at the right level. That's all I need it to do. So unfortunately, I think the DXA Cine is somewhat redundant in all but one situation, and that one situation is purely acting as a preamp for your onboard mic. So sorry, it's not what we were hoping for as a cheaper DXA Alexa. There's better options, so I'd avoid the Beachtek if I were you. So I'm afraid that I think the DXA Cine is a bit of a damp squib. If you want to know a bit more about the input options for your Alexa Mini, I've done another video on that. I hope that and this has been useful, and if you've got any questions or suggestions, pop them in the comments. Thanks very much for watching.